Hey everybody, this is the Sliders Review, and it's Women's History Month, and I'm here today to talk to you about Reign Season 3 and 4. So I decided to combine these two seasons together, because for the most part they're pretty similar, and for the most part they're my least favorite. Season 3 is pretty good with some really good storylines, but there are some things in season 3 that just really bother me. And as for season 4, I generally just do not like season 4. I didn't like it when I watched it back in the day, and for the most part, when I rewatched it now, I still, for the most part, just don't like it. And it's because of a lot of the stuff that happened in season 3 that pissed me off to the point where I just don't really like it in season 4. It is sad that Reign did come to an end in season 4. I really enjoyed that show back in the day. It was one of my favorite shows, and it was one of the best shows on the CW at that time. And for the most part, it was one of the best CW shows of all time. And it's not even a superhero show. It's a period piece drama. And I remember, because, back in those days, I didn't watch too many period pieces unless it was like Hercules, Xena, or Briscoe County Jr., or like Jack of all trades. So, it was a good couple of, maybe like a decade or so a decade and a half since I watched like another period piece. And I absolutely fell in love with this show. It was amazing. The drama, the romance, the intrigue, the clothes, the cast. I was digging this show. But like many other people, I was like, well, for the most part at that time of watching that show, I didn't know about all the historical inaccuracies and stuff. But as time has went on, I now know them after doing so much research and watching other shows, and it's kind of frustrating knowing all the inaccuracies of this show. They really didn't seem to care. They was mostly just creating like a historical soap opera and everything. But still, nevertheless, it's still very irritating. Like I said before, in season one, it's like there are some characters that are made up. There are some that are real. There are times where they take points from history and just rework it around, and that's what they did in season 3 and 4. But for the most part, season 4 is probably the most historic accurate, but just reworked around and everything. And I remember when I watched this show, I never heard of Queen Mary of Scots, and I just felt so heartbroken for her, man. What she went through in life as like a child, her teen years, and for the most part, her adult years and stuff. And it was so she might be the one of the most tragic historic figures of all time, because she's had to fight and struggle for her survival and for her country's survival since she was 6 years old and stuff, man. It's so tragic. But then when you read stuff about her adult life, then it's kind of like, dude, what the heck are you doing? I guess she just gave up and just didn't care no more. Some of the grossest stuff she did when she got an adult, because the show kind of touches on it, but kind of shines away from it, because they don't always bring it up. Like in season 4, when she gets remarried, yes, indeed, that is her cousin. She married and had a child by her actual cousin and stuff. And they bring it up once that that's her cousin, but they don't bring it up again because they don't want you to linger on it and be grossed out. But yes, she had an incest relationship and married her cousin, all because she was trying her best to keep Scotland and then at one point try to take over England. It's like, ugh. But what caused her death in real life is completely different from that of the show. And when it comes to season 3, like Season three, for the most part, isn't even really about her. Because, see, in season three, we finally now truly 100% get the real true introduction of Queen Elizabeth the First, played by Rachel Scatton. And so, like, the majority of season three is about her. And I remember watching that back in the day, and I remember being very irritated because the thing about Reign is that Reign is about the story of Queen Mary of Scots and her life and everything. Then all of a sudden it shifts on over to like Elizabeth to the point where Mary is kind of an afterthought in season three. She appears and she has a storyline, but it's not like a real big storyline at first until like Francis dies. And then after that, it just becomes repetitive because she's just trying to find a new husband. And then she leaves for she leaves back for Scotland. Now, the reason why she leaves for Scotland is completely different in the show. I guess it's because they didn't want Catherine to seem too evil and everything. Because for the most part, Catherine is kind of redeemed and kind of not. She's kind of borderline of like how she always is, but she's a bit nicer, especially towards Mary in season three, especially after like Francis dies and stuff. Because her and like Catherine and Mary actually get along and they help each other out a lot, which is shocking, but that's not how it happened in real life. Even Sebastian and Catherine get along until she finally tells him about what happened to his mother and he tries to kill her and then he decides to leave. But, like, yeah, for the most part, Mary is kind of an afterthought in season three, and her storylines become pretty repetitive because it's all about Elizabeth because we have to get to know this new character. And because of that, we get a bunch of new characters, mainly English and everything, like British people in the third season, and a lot of the French characters, their screen time is reduced and their storylines are kind of boring at times, and some don't make no sense. And others just piss you off. Like Greer, she's barely in this season because the actress was pregnant in real life. She's actually married to the dude who played Notre Dame. I didn't even know that. They're like 10 years apart and they have a kid. And they're still married to this day. So they found love even though they barely had any screen time. But like she's barely in like the show. And the stuff they do with Lola just pissed me off no matter like how many years it's been. But then what they do to her at the end of the season, it infuriated me because I generally like the actress and stuff. Like one of the reasons why I even watched this show is because I found out that the actress from Power Rangers RPM who plays Mary is in this. I still can't pronounce her name that well. Adeline or Adelina or something like that. I was happy to see her in there, but I was thrilled to see Anna Popplewell, who plays Lola in this. But they didn't really write the best material for her because she becomes very irritating after a while, and she becomes insufferable in season three by the choices she makes. And it's just kind of like, what the heck were the writers thinking? And the fact is, they wasn't thinking. And so, like, then they went and get rid of her character, and it's just like, oh, no, I'm done. I'm done. Like, you kill Francis, you kill Lola, you get rid of Bash. Nobody knows what the heck happened to Kenna. Like, Kenna gets completely written out of the show at the end of season two with no explanation. She only gets mentioned once towards the end of season three, but it's just by name. Like, oh, you know, I had so many like ladies in waiting, and she mentions their name, but they don't say what happened to Kenna. And still to this day, nobody knows why the actress really left. And the fact is that some of the stars left to be in their own other television shows tells you a lot of, I truly believe there's backstage drama in this show, but nobody won't say nothing. And they've kept it hush hush. Like the actor who plays Bash. In season 4, he's like just gone. His name get mentioned. I can't remember if he appears, but he gets mentioned. But it's like he's not. He doesn't even appear in the flashback towards the end when they get rid of Mary and stuff. And it's just kind of like, was there backstage drama? Like he left to be a part of his own show to be the lead in it, but it only lasted for like a season. So it's kind of like, was this backstage drama? I'm wondering, like, what happened with the Kenna actress? I think her name is Caitlin. I think. Like, what happened? Why did they kill Lola off? Did the actress want to leave or not? Because the actress barely done anything since. And it just makes you kind of wonder. Like, I get why they got rid of Francis because it's, part of history. But they got rid of him so quick in season 3. I'm just kind of like, yo, what are y'all doing and stuff over here? Then they started introducing all these new British and Scottish characters that are boring and everything. Then there is the introduction, of course, of magic, very prevalent in season 3, but then it goes away in season 4. So it's kind of like, well, hold up now. In season 1, they make you think magic is real, but it's not. Then in season 2, they kind of make you think it's real again, but it's kind of not. But then again, you don't know because it's all in these crazy people's head. Then in season 3, they're like, yeah, magic exists. And it's like, why? There's never been no magic really in this show. Then in season 4, they're like, okay, let's get rid of magic. That was an experiment gone wrong. But it's because of what happened in season 3 that started pissing fans off. That season 4 had a huge decline in ratings and stuff. Because ratings were high and solid with the first 3 seasons. But because of all the crap that happened in season 3, people are just kind of like, why the heck do I even want to come back for season 4? So, while season 1 and 2 had episode orders of 22 each, season 3 had 18 episodes and season 4 had 16. And so I remember when I watched this show many years ago, and I was very shocked that they actually went through with it in season 4. They actually killed off Mary, Queen of Scots, just like in history and stuff. And so I assume, okay, in season 4, all the stuff that happens in the French court makes absolutely no sense. And it's kind of stupid for that season. But it would have been perfect if they would have added it to season 3 instead of the stuff they did add in season 3. And so here's the thing. Yes, season 4 sucks for the French people, but if they would have added those storylines to season 3, oh, it would have been fine. You know what I'm saying? It would have helped add to season 3 and made it a little bit more better. But it doesn't make no sense as to why they're going to add it for season 4. Then all the French stuff ends on a cliffhanger at the end of season 4 to where the showrunners were banking, hoping, praying that they get a season 5, but never did. Because if they would have got a season 5, they would have just spun the show off with the French people and probably had Elizabeth there too. But back to my original statement, back to Queen Elizabeth I, because they show so much of her in season 3, by the time you get to season 4, then she becomes an afterthought in season 4 and is just kind of lingering around to where the show goes back to being about Mary. But all the stuff that happens to Mary in season 4 is pretty boring. And I truly believe back in the day when I was watching this, I really honestly thought, since the show is called Rain, it doesn't really matter which country they're talking about. I thought either they was gonna spin this show off in either the French court or with Elizabeth the First, because of how much screen time she had in season three and how many storylines. Because they talk about her real life romance with Robert Dudley and everything. And what happened to his wife in the accidental death. And so they started to get more pulling stuff in fat from history, but reworking it around to make it more suspenseful for television. And so I thought like, wow, what I'm saying? Like this they might spin it off with her show. And the actress is really great in the role. And but it all just came to an end at season four. Like the network was just done. Because it's kind of like when you start making up too much stuff and then you start adding magic in a pretty realistic historical show, then you start to lose your viewership. That whole thing with Delphine got on my nerves. It got on my nerves and everything. But also, when you get rid of some of your memorable characters from the past seasons, and then you start introducing brand new characters that are just kind of but you have to introduce them because, you're going that history route, but at least make them interesting. Don't just make them eh. And so when you started replacing cool people with people, and this show, even it had a blend, it had a balance of male and female characters. But when you watch the show, you always feel it's centered around the females more because of Mary Queen of Scots. So then when you start introducing a bunch of new male characters and less female characters, then you start to lose your audience. Like this is why I put this video in Women's like History Month and stuff, because even though it has a balance of the men and the women, the show revolves around the main female characters and stuff, the queens. But then when you start replacing them with the male characters and the male characters kind of like, then you kind of lose interest and stuff. So it does suck how this show had to go down with Whimper, but at least when Mary did die and everything, they made it the most touching thing ever for the fans. And so it sucks for its historical inaccuracy, but at least they gave us a lot of good, juicy stuff. And I remember back in these days when shows used to be 18 to 22 episodes and stuff. This was week by week. So you spent a good chunk of the year watching your favorite show and everything. Like you spent about anywhere between 5 to 6 months watching stuff, and you felt like you ate really well. And you know what I'm saying? And it was joyful and stuff, and you love watching the reruns. But around this time, reruns kind of stopped. And so, but there was DVDs, and then it became on streaming. And the streaming thing is kind of odd. It was on Netflix for the longest time. Then Netflix took it off, and then it was on the CW app for free. And I was gonna watch it. In fact, I was gonna talk about this show probably a year ago, but then the CW app took it off the moment I was gonna start watching it, because I reviewed the very first episode years ago. But now Amazon Prime has it, and I rarely have Amazon Prime because I've never paid the full $15 a month thing. I've always gotten like discounts and stuff. And so, but whenever I get a discount, there's always something else I want to watch. So I never had time to watch this show. So I made sure last year I binged the crap out of it, and also this year. Because I got it around December or so, or something like that. 2024. And so, you can also buy this on DVD. They got the individual DVDs for about $14, or you can get the whole like series for $34. But like I said before, when it comes to this last season, man, like I'm telling you. But you never really hear the cast ever talk about the show. Then again, I don't never really watch interviews with them, but I did watch one with the lead actress who played Mary because she was at Power Morphicon because she was in the Power Rangers show before this. And somebody asked her a couple of years back about the show Rain, and you can just see her heart flutter and everything. Like, she said this would be a moment in time that she just really enjoyed making. The show was like incredible, and it's a big part of her life because she got to be the lead in her own show. Like, how awesome is that? Like, she went from Power Rangers playing a sidekick villain to like leading her own show, because she had done soap operas like and stuff back then because she's an Australian actress. And to go from Power Rangers to leading your own show, then when the show ends, you go to Grey's Anatomy, yes, where she's still on till this day. Like, that's an amazing thing. And she's one of the most successful former Power Rangers stars because there aren't that many. If you was to like ask who is the most successful of all time Power Ranger stars from outside projects that don't involve Power Rangers, it would probably be Amy Jo Johnson, Rose McIver, and of course, however you pronounce her name, Adelina, something like that, Kane or whatever her last name is. I gotta look it up real fast. I'm not at the computer right now. And so, like, yeah, like they are the most three successful Power Rangers stars ever to go to outside projects and stuff. And, so this is a big accomplishment for her. And, I hope they let her keep some of the stuff from the show, but I doubt it. Like the outfits, man, these are some of the best look. This is one of the things that also intrigue me. These are some amazing outfits, but they're historically inaccurate. They're modernized big time. Tons of leather, tons of lace, tons of like probably silk and everything. Like, these are some historic. They're historically inaccurate, but they're gorgeous nevertheless. And that was one of the appeals of this show. The clothes themselves had their own personality, and they looked amazing. So after this long intro, let's get into some of the character development. I will be going over um both seasons, what the characters did. I will throw in a little bit of the Serpent Queen because it was another show that depicted Queen Mary of Scots, but only a little bit because it was mostly about Queen Catherine. And so, how those two shows differ. And I will also give in what happened in actual real life to a lot of these characters and stuff. And also give my opinion if I thought Queen Mary was actually a good ruler. Because it's very debatable. I'll start off with Kenna. She gone. She ain't in here no more. I don't know what happened to her, but she got written completely off the show. And not only was she written off the show, it was never explained what happened to her character. It's almost like she never existed. Because either at the end of season 3 or 4, I can't remember which one it is, they actually mention her name, but they don't say what happened to her. It's just Mary talking about missing her girl, ladies in waiting, and she just mentioned her name, and that was literally it. And she was shown in the flashbacks at the very end of season 4, but that's about it. And it's just strange because she was part of the show for the first 2 seasons and then just they wrote her out. I don't know if they were backstage drama. I don't know if the actress wanted to do another show. She was just gone, man. And it sucked because she was such a fascinating character and stuff. But yeah, Caitlin Stacy is just like gone, man. Lymph. I think that's how you say his name. He has such a strange name. This dude, sometimes you like this character because he's an original character. He's not based on no historical person, and they really wanted you to like him, and they built him up from like ground up. You know what I'm saying? And you can't help but feel bad for the dude because what all happened to him in season one, like you just wanted him to be with Greer, but it was just never meant to be. And for the most part, he's a really good character, but every once in a while, they'll like write something shady about him. Mostly when he gets fed up and how he'll treat somebody and talk to him. But other than that, he's a really good, gallant type character. He's bold, he's brave, and he follows his heart. And that seems to be like the most thing that ever really happens to him. Like, I'm still pissed him and Greer never got together, man. It just sucks. I wanted those two to be together. But it was just never meant to be. And so he moved on from her after season one and two. And in season three, he starts up. Well, first let me just say, like, when I say he built himself from the ground up, like he really did. Like he was working in the kitchen, then he became like he was forced to be like a soldier in the army and stuff, and then he became part of like the Royal Guard, and he did a lot for the show. Like he helped King Charles out when it came to that of the Red Knights. He was help looking for like the killer and everything. Like they really did a lot with this one character. And what he told Greer at the end of season one, it came to fruition and everything at the end of season four. But in season three, after like, doing all this guard type stuff and helping protect like France and everything, they put him in another relationship, but this time with Claude. I never really understood this relationship like at all. It was just kind of odd, but yeah, he just started dating the princess. But it's weird how they started dating. Apparently, he said that he's always wanted to date her or something like that, but he couldn't, so he started dating one of her ladies in waiting, which really pissed her off. And then those two started a relationship, but of course, she's a princess and he can't exactly just go and marry her. And people in like, their court know that and stuff. But because like, he's saving this person's life and that person's life and helping Charles out, they were going to grant those two a relationship. And he even teaches her how to fight. But then the problem is, when he was looking for this one killer, he ended up getting, no, when he was looking for the Red Knights because of the whole Charles thing, he ended up getting stabbed at the end of season three, and we didn't know his fate. We didn't see a dead body, we didn't see a live body, and halfway into the first couple of episodes of season four, we still don't know his fate. So we assume he just died off screen until all of a sudden he made a recovery on the day Claude was getting married to that Narcisse's son. What's that dude's name? Luke. And so he gets married, but Narcisse has him arrested because before they're about to consummate the marriage, Lymph was going to stop it. But Narcisse had him arrested and got him out. So then once again, he's in this whole love triangle thing. Him and Claude want to be together, but they can't because she's married. So she's going to get her marriage annulled. But the problem is, this will be her second annulment. And so, heartbroken, he agrees to have like, be like her side piece, which he doesn't want to be because he doesn't want her in the arms of another man. But her husband agrees that, look, man, as long I'll just keep the title, she'll give me children, but you can have her and everything. So they was gonna do that until he overheard those two making out. But he didn't overhear the part where she made him stop. But it took a while for her to make her husband stop because she was really enjoying it. And so he decided, you know what, I'm out. So he goes to Narcisse and he's all like, look, man, I'll leave and I'll leave for good but I want something in return, which really impresses Narcisse. He wants money, to be rich. And that's what he takes. He takes the money. He tells Claude, look, man, I'm done with you. I'm about to leave. And she's all like, but no, me and Luke are finally like over now. And we're about to get an annulment. He's like, I don't care. I'm leaving, which was kind of cold and everything. And that's just how he left. He left brokenhearted and he left rich. And so it took a good while for her to get annulled, but then at that point in time, in a letter, it was stated that he got married to another lady, and we never got to see that. And so it really does suck when they make him shady like that. But it's kind of like, what was the point of even bringing him back for season four? They could have just left it off as him presumably being dead and everything, and we would have just settled with that. But they had to bring him back for this whole love triangle drama crap. But it made no sense. And it kind of just made people sad for him. But then a little irritated by how he treated Claude and how he took money over love. Princess Claude. I swear to God, Rose Williams is a perfect princess, man. She is like the ideal princess. The way she bops when she walks, her pink dresses and everything. How like she has that girly daintiness to like her appearance and like her expressions and stuff. She is the ideal princess. And she is perfect in this role. And in fact, this is my favorite role of hers. And it's funny because she would come back to like, the world of the Medicis and stuff in another like I think television series that had to depict something, or it's like a television or something like that. It was something she was in that depicts like the Medici family, but she played a completely different character in that. But I love her as Princess Claude. And for the most part, you can tell they didn't know what the heck to do with her in season 3 and 4. So they just put her in love romances and stuff. Her relationship with Catherine is getting a bit better, but it also is a little strained here and there. She will never be queen of anything, sadly, and will always stay a princess, even in that of history. And so in season 3, they, like I said before, they just put her in a relationship with Lymph and everything. And it's just odd because why? You know what I'm saying? But those two really do care for each other, and he even teaches her how to fight. However, when Charles becomes king and everything, and like her older sister, well, they call her Liza in the show, but she's technically Elizabeth, Elizabeth of Spain. And so, like, she makes Claude get married and stuff to like a nobleman. And Claude does not want that because she wants to be with Lymph. And so the nobleman decides to be violent towards Claude when they get into an argument and smack her. But she decides, my boyfriend taught me how to fight. So she does this little bouncy kind of like stance as she's like bopping her fist around, punching him and hitting him in the throat and everything. And it's just the cutest little way she does it, because it's like a little girly girl trying, it's like a little, like, say, like a little 5-year-old girl pretending to box, but don't really know how. And it's just like the funnest thing to see. But she ends up whooping him and coming back to French court. This causes them to tell, this causes her to get annulled, but this was all set up by Catherine. Catherine forced that, or she bribed that man into like marrying Claude and smacking her around just to get Claude back and everything. And I think also some money or something like that. It's Catherine being Catherine. And Megan follows. That's actually how you say her name. It's not Megan, it's Megan. And so, like, she actually directed this episode and everything. And so, Claude and Lymph was like together for like the longest time until he got stabbed, and she didn't know what happened to him. And Narcisse put his son onto her, and because Narcisse's son is completely different from him, Luke is actually very charming. And so he's like really nice, really like caring and stuff. And that what causes her to start to fall for him. And so when they get married, like I said before, Lymph decided to come on back after all this time and everything. And it caused like friction in the relationship, but not so much because they was gonna have an open marriage. But like I said before, you know what I'm saying, like her and Lymph broke up. But then later on her and Luke broke up as well, so now she's left with absolutely no one. And that's how they ended her character. They just had nothing for her in season 3 and 4, but they didn't want to get rid of the actress because she became a fan favorite. Now, in real life, Claude did end up getting married, I believe, to a nobleman and stuff, and she ended up having about 9 children and everything. That's a lot, like a real lot. But however, just like I said before, her relationship with Catherine in real life was actually really good. I don't know why they wrote that for the show, but I guess they needed drama for something for her, you know? And as for her blanking Bash, well, of course, he doesn't exist in real life. And from what I can tell, she's never had an incest relationship with none of her brothers and stuff. Greer. I like Greer. She's cool. Out of all the ladies in waiting, she was the most like eloquent. Um the not so much head, like she was headstrong but not in the way as the others, but she was elegant and everything, very like posh and everything. I really like that. And but in season 3 she was barely in the season, and that's because the actress got pregnant in real life to her husband who played what's that dude's name, the fortune teller dude. um Not, oh, God, what's his name? Something with an N. The big guy with the beard. Um, Crap. Nostradamus. That's it. I think that's it. It's out of it. That's his name, or that's that vampire dude name. But anyway, she married him in real life, and happy for them. You know, even though he's 10 years older than her. But oh well. So anyway, they didn't have nothing for Greer this season at all because she was pregnant in real life. So they decided to add that into the storyline. So instead of getting her and Lymph back together, they decided that while she's married, but she can't be with her husband because he's been taken away because of what happened in season 2, that she's gonna hook up with a pirate of all people. A pirate. Don't know who this character is. He's made up for the show. He's really charming, but he deceives her and this and that. And because you know that's what pirates do. And so she's still working at the brothel. And a lot of fans actually enjoyed that storyline because they say it gave her independence. However, that was taken away in season 4. I'll get in a little bit later. But anyway, so she's trying to find a way to cover up this pregnancy. So she has her sister and her brother-in-law pretend like it's going to be theirs. And her sister is actually played by Megan Follow's real life daughter. But then it turns out that it was all them deceiving her and stuff like that. And they just like wanted her money and all this other crap. Well, anyway, when the pirate finds out that she's pregnant, he's all, hey, look, I'll send you gold every year and I'll visit the baby twice a year. Now, what the heck kind of thing is that? Because he's a pirate, don't want to like lead that lifestyle. So, anyways, she's barely in season 3. By season 4, she gave birth offline, and she's moved back to Scotland to be with Mary. Now she's Mary's like best friend, because that's the only friend she has left that's like either still there or alive. And so like she's mostly just there to console like Mary and give her like advice and all this other stuff. But the problem is like, her daughter's complexion is starting to show. She's brown. So she wonders how she's going to live in the world with a brown child and this and that. But they don't really go into too much detail. As for her husband, he finally comes back. But it turns out, you know, because he's been raising the child while she was off, but like he found himself another woman. So she's about to get divorced, and so she's lonely. But then they start to try to hook her up with James. I swear to God, this show is all about trying to hook people up, man. But then it's like, you know, with the whole James thing, Mary's brother, that doesn't really work out because he's being forced to seduce that of John Knox, his wife. And plus, when that whole thing at the Hamiltons happened with them people dying, they needed somebody to blame, so they blamed him. And so he was forced to leave in exile. So those two never got to be together, but she did say she wishes she could have met a man like him. She had somebody like him, Lymph, but she didn't want him no more because he wasn't rich enough and didn't have a title. And so that's just the end of her story and everything. And after Mary got arrested and all this other stuff, we don't know what happened to Greer. I wish they could have wrote more for her. I understand why they brought her back, but like they should have wrote more for her. Notre Dame comes back for like season three very briefly just to tell Catherine that the whole vision of Francis dying is still gonna happen. Then he basically just leaves and everything. And he's not even really in this season that much, and he's not in season four. It's like all these characters that people like are just starting to leave. And that would really piss me off when Lola left because I'm like, no, not Anna and everything. Like, who else is going to leave this show? Lola, my God. I feel so bad for what happened to Lola. First of all, I love the actress to death. Like, you know, Anna Popplewell and everything. Ever since them Narnia movies, I've been a fan. And I was so happy when she joined this show. But they always made Lola a very complex character because of the men that she bees with, or ends up with. However, in season three, they decided to just completely tear her character down. After so long of being pursued by Narcisse, she finally decided, all right, fine, whatever, I will take your advancements. She falls in love with him and get married to the dismay of everybody. And so, like, everybody kept warning her this dude is terrible. She knows he's terrible, but for whatever reason, she is dumb in season three. And so, when she's out on a vacation with him and everything, this woman comes up and starts fussing him out because he's trying to get people to sign away their land to him. This pisses her off, and she later, like, you know, leaves him. And he tried hard to pursue her. Like he put a dead rat in her water, bath water. He had his scribe like write fake letters to her and everything, pretending to be Catherine, and just all kind of other stuff. Then she found out about the fake letters and stuff. So she was really done with him after that. But then they wrote this bizarre storyline of like her going to England. So her brothers and her father got arrested because they went on over to England and tried to steal their grain back because Elizabeth was starving the people. And so Elizabeth personally wanted her to come to court to be like arrested and stuff or whatever. And so, or no, to get her brothers out, but then she ended up getting arrested. She became like a prisoner of war because she knows she's best friends with that of Mary and this and that. However, what's weird is that they wrote Lola to be friends with Elizabeth, like, because that's what Elizabeth wanted. She wanted to be friends with somebody close to Mary to find out everything she can about Mary and use that against her. But then she ended up really becoming friends with that of Lola, and for some bizarre reason, Lola became friends with her back to the point where she looked out for Elizabeth when bad stuff was going to happen to Elizabeth. She warned Elizabeth, or when weird, freaky stuff would happen, like that one William dude who was in love with Elizabeth and would put a wig on a woman and like boom boom her and everything. It's like she told her that. Like, so it's just like, dude, what, Lola, what the heck are you doing and everything? Like, why are you befriending your best friend's like mortal enemy and everything? And so it's really weird how they wrote her this season. Then, when John Knox faked the letter pretending to be Mary, gave it to Lola, they wanted Lola to assassinate that of Elizabeth along with somebody else. And she goes along with it for some bizarre reason, knowing Mary would never do that. And when she gets caught, this pisses Elizabeth off and everything, and Lola gets beheaded at the end of season 3 as Narcisse is in the crowd trying to get her out and stuff. And he ends up getting arrested because he stabbed 2 religious dudes and stuff like that, or guards or something. And I'm just like, do they have it out for this character or something like that? Like, do they hate this character? Do they hate the actress or something? Like, why would they write this for her? And it's never been explained why they wanted to write her character off. I guess it's to um pull away everybody that's ever cared for Mary when, her story arc goes into season 4 or whatever. But still, and because they keep writing Lola like this, she's one of the most hated characters on the show. Francis, yeah, they finally gonna do that, man, just like in history. And like I said before, this show is very historically inaccurate, but they do tend to pull from actual history every once in a while, especially in season 4. And so Francis is still king. He's been king since the end of season 1 and he's been king all through season like 2 and all this other stuff. In real life, he was only king for like a year because he dies. Now, the Francis in real life was a very sick, thin man. So he's not the type of person you see in the show. He's not like all that like gallant. He doesn't go fighting in wars. He doesn't build boats or nothing like that. But in season 3, like he has to deal with his mom, and you know how his mom is and stuff. Cause she went on over to England, and him and Mary are trying to like rule, and all this other stuff is coming up, and all this stuff with like Elizabeth and everything, and the Protestants and the Catholics. So he has a lot to deal with, but he still loves his wife. And he built the boat, and him and his wife are on the boat, and he's teaching her how to use it and stuff like that because something got like stuck and she couldn't like get the rotor or something like that to like do what it needed to do, and he helped her. He's always been Mary's one true love. But we know that his time was coming at some point. I just didn't think it was going to be this season. I thought they would have done it in like season 4. But in season 3, like, I think they killed him off by like the 5th episode or something like that. And he dies in bed, like, how he's supposed to and everything in real life. And it's like, oh no, man. But then they do this whole like magical stuff and they bring him back from the dead. So basically, he's teaching Charles how to be king because he knows his time is coming because he's starting to feel sick. And so he's trying to do everything he can to get Charles to be a better king and be prepared and stuff like that. So Charles and that Bash, they bring Delphine, and Delphine's supposed to be this magical heal. I hate when they added magic into the show. So anyway, she does her magic thing and she brings him back to life. But in order to bring him back, it had to kill another person. So it went all the way to Scotland and killed Mary's mother as she was writing a letter and stuff. And so I'm like, holy crap. So like, cool, he gets to like live on the show. It's historically inaccurate, but who cares, right? Until the next freaking episode. Then they killed his behind off again. I'm like, dude, why did y'all kill him just to bring him back to life? Just to kill him in the next episode. So in the next episode, he dies completely different than he does in real life. Him and Mary are happy. They're out on a vacation. And some like Scottish like assassins come to kill them. And he fights them all very bravely. That's the one thing that's really good about like season 3 and 4. The action got so much better. like the sword fighting and stuff. And so like he kills all of them except for one because that one person stabbed him. So now he dies on the ground, just the way Notre Dame said, and Mary is beyond heartbroken. And I'm just like, dude, why did y'all do that for? But at least they gave him a manly death, like a warrior type death. He died in battle and everything, which is not what happened in real life because the dude was so sick, so bad in health, he could never do any of this stuff. And so Mary is completely heartbroken over this. He gives Mary like a sword, so eventually she can take back her kingdom. Because he knows his mom isn't going to let her stay there. But it plays out differently in the show. Because Mary had to leave for different reasons. But then he comes back as like a ghost at the very end of season 4 as Mary died. And it's a very heart touching, like, scene, which I'll get into much later. And so it's like, y'all keep getting rid of characters I like, man, who you gonna get rid of next? Oh, they got rid of Bash. Bash is prominent during season 3, but he's completely gone by season 4. In season 3, his whole they have nothing for him in season 3, so they had to find something. So with Kenna gone for some bizarre reason, he of course is piggybacking off of what happened in season 2 with him and Delphine. And so Delphine has been accused of being like this killer going around ripping out women's hearts and stuff like that. But he doesn't believe it's her. He is still marked by her. So whatever markings somebody puts onto her comes on to him in great pain and agony and stuff. So stupid. I hate when they added magic into the show. And so he's constantly searching for her to where he finally finds her and stuff. And they start up a relationship only for her to constantly keep disappearing from the season. So it's like, okay, whatever. And so like they're still in pursuit of who this killer person could be. And this killer person ends up killing Delphine. And so he's, of course, is heartbroken and all this other stuff. He's actually helping out Catherine a lot this season. And it's weird to see those two get along. And of course, he's heartbroken over like Francis, but him and Francis really didn't have no screen time this season. So that felt very hollow. He kills the man who killed Delphine in a very James Bond Casino Royale kind of way. No, Quantum of Solace kind of way. And so, like, it was really cool. He finally got vengeance on that dude and for all those murders that dude did. And so, like, but then he finds out who killed his mom. It was Catherine. And he found that out because of all this whole Red Knight stuff. And so he literally tries to strangle Catherine, only to stop and leave France along with Mary to go to Scotland. It is there he helps aid her because the Scottish people have turned on her. They've turned Protestant. So after dealing with the druids and stuff, an old dying druid woman tells him, you are magical, boy, and you must go on your journey to, like, discover your pagan roots and everything. And so that's what he does at the end of season 3. And he's nowhere to be found in season 4. He's only shown in that flashback towards the last episode, but that is about it. He also sends Brothwell to like look over Mary and stuff, but that's really about it. And it's like, dude, where is he? Well, he left to go do his own show on ABC that lasted for 1 season. So either way, he would have had just a 1 season type thing, whether it would have been on this show or the other show. But it's like, dude, stop getting rid of all these cool characters. Because people love Bash, man. He's been through so much since season 1. And he's a completely made up character. Delphine is just a witch. She's like, I can't believe they added magic into this show. Anyway, she's just a witch. And so, like I said before, she starts up a relationship with that of Bash. She is trying to help stop this real killer and everything. So she's kind of like a seer in some ways and trying to help solve this crime. And so she later on finds out like who really is doing all the killing, but then he ended up killing her. This man is Kristoff. Kristoff is the lover of Catherine. He's just a man who later became like a guard and a higher up ranking and stuff like that. For the longest time, you didn't know who the killer was, and I never guessed it would be him. And so he has another lover and just using Catherine for like, a good time and money and stuff like that. So he can buy his actual real girlfriend a lot of nice stuff. And so it's later revealed that he is in fact the killer. He was framing other people. Why exactly he kills is never explained. He just likes killing people and stuff. When Catherine finds out, she does nothing because he's going to blackmail her for some of the stuff that she's done. And so she just lets this go like about and everything until he starts killing more. But then when he kills Delphine and Bash finds out, he's pissed that Catherine knew all this crap but never tried to stop it. And this is what causes Bash to try to kill that of Catherine. Prince, later King Charles, played by Spencer McPherson. First of all, I am confused. How old is this dude supposed to be? In season one, he's no more than 8 or about, no, actually 10 years old, because Catherine said that. Somehow, in the span of from season one all the way to season 3, he is now at least a 15-year-old boy. And it's like, how? Because from season 1 to season 2 takes place in a matter of minutes. From season 3 to season 4 is a matter of like days or weeks or something like that. So when did he have time to gain like an extra 5 years? Now, Francis was king for a year, so that's 1 year. And Lola was pregnant for 9 months, so that's almost 2 years. But still, when did this whole time jump thing like happen? And when he does about to become king, Mary's all like, he's just a boy. But it's like, dude, he's not a boy. He's a teenage boy. So that doesn't make no sense. And also the same thing for Henry, the prince and everything. When did they age them up and why? Nobody will ever know. Now, this is Spencer's best role, in my opinion. I've seen him in other stuff, but he normally plays the same type of character. But here he plays a completely complex character instead of a one-note character. He normally plays like the bad boy who's not really a bad boy, but really a good boy. He gets typecast a lot. But like when he starts off, he's just like a fun-loving prince who having a good time and likes to get high with this one girl. And so like she ends up overdosing to where Narcisse has to help out. And so like he's not ready to be king, but then he has to be king. And just like in real life, he has to have a regent take over for him because he's underage to be that of the king. In real life, it's supposed to be his mom, but in the show, Narcisse ends up taking control until Catherine later takes control. But then Charles ends up taking control from Catherine because he doesn't trust Catherine no more. In actuality, Catherine was the regent for about 3 years or so until he became of age at 16, and then he became king, and so but they changed it for like this show. For the most part, he's a really nice person. He starts off that way and he really wants to do good by his people. But at one point they wanted him to marry Mary on the show because so she can like, stay queen of like France and all that. But then she saw that, he's too young and he's in love with another, so they just decided not to do that. In actuality, this never happened. He was never gonna marry Mary or nothing like that. And so like one of his first duties is to find like, this killer and this and that, but then he really wants to impress people by not being a goof of a king because something happened to where people started, I think, they tried to harm him one day. And it's because of Catherine. And it's because of this whole Red Knight thing. So the whole Red Knight thing is basically his storyline. The Red Knights actually did exist in the old days, and they were like this elite guard of soldiers that were from like orphan boys or boys that didn't have no family, and so they can be like heartless and cruel in battle and stuff like that. In the show, Catherine and King Henry never paid them, so instead they killed 13 of them, so they didn't have to pay them. The rest of the Red Knights and their descendants and stuff. Well, not actually their descendants or whatever wanted revenge. It became like the new Red Knights or whatever. And so this is the stuff that Charles has to deal with. And it causes him and Catherine not to really get along that much. But he decides, hey, you know what? If I end up like stopping the Red Knights, my people will love me again and everything. So him and his teenage friends decide they're gonna catch him along with Lymph. This goes badly as Charles is later kidnapped and stuff. And the reason for that, his best friend betrayed him. But then when his best friend, dad, along with somebody else, gets murdered, then they try to like flee and everything. This causes them to be on the run for several days or weeks. And when they're found again, like, he is a completely changed person. He's now a bit demented in the head and a little bit emo-ish and stuff. And it turns out the reason for that is later revealed in season 4 because he goes through all these personality shifts. It almost is like they're trying to redo what they did with King Henry in season 1 when Henry went mad because he was hanging out with this one girl and the one girl ended up dead. And now his townspeople thinks he's going around killing girls and clickety clacking with them and stuff as they're dead. But that's not what's going on. I think it was actually like a bear that was taking people in the woods or something like that. But nevertheless, what the heck is going on with him? Where he reveals when he was on the run, him and his friend had to eat like rodents raw out in the woods and eat dirt to fill their bellies and stuff. And it really changed him. And where he's been going this whole time is he's been visiting these Protestant like farmers and everything, and just being a normal regular person because he doesn't want to be king. And it's even to the point where he tries to get rid of his title. But when Liza finds all this out, she wants to put Henry on the throne along with Catherine because he's so distant and doesn't even want to be king. And then when he is king, he's acting kind of stupid. And so like he ends up falling in love with the farmer's daughter because Catherine realizes, hey, maybe I can get him back to being the person he is if he finds love. So that's what happened. But then this is Erica, and I think that's her name, and she's just a horrible character. And so for the most part, like, he's tired of his mom. He doesn't want his sister to go off and get married to somebody who's going to abuse her and stuff like that. And he ends up having Liza arrested, which never happened in real life. But then he now is going to go to war with Spain and everything, which is something that actually did happen. English and Spain have always gone to war with each other, and France and Spain have always gone to war with each other. So yeah, at least they got that part right in history and stuff. In the show, when Charles was all crazy for cure and everything, they turned him Protestant, which is something that never happened before. Now, in real life, he did have to deal with the Catholics and this one Protestant group called the Hogs something or another. So he had to deal with all that during his reign. But for the most part, his mom pretty much controlled his entire reign in real life. Even after he became king, because she kept advising him and stuff like that. Kira, I think that's her name. So, he ends up falling in love with this farm girl named Kira, right? But this is one of the worst characters ever, and nobody likes her. She falls for Narcisse and wants to like clickety clack with him. Basically, Catherine's all like, look, if it makes Charles happy to have this girl, we need to keep her in court, so you blank her and everything. So that's what Narcisse ends up doing. And, it's just, this character is so lame and stupid. She likes Charles, she likes Narcisse, Like she's just wanting power and this and that. But I think Charles ends up finding out or something like that. Oh no, no, she finds out that Narcisse has been using her and stuff like that. And it's just a really stupid, pointless storyline with a pointless character. Queen Liza of Spain, which is technically Queen Elizabeth of Spain. I guess they didn't want to use the name Elizabeth only because it would have confused people because Queen Elizabeth I is in this show now. So Liza and everything is Catherine's daughter, who is the Queen of Spain. She is ruthless and rude and arrogant and all this other stuff because Spain has to give France money and they're tired of doing that. And they're always having to help out. And so basically, she wants Claude to get married to like a noble. When she goes to court and she doesn't see Charles nowhere and later finds out he's gone mad, she wants to put Henry on the throne and stuff like that. And so basically, her and her mom don't get along because her mom was very neglectful, which was not the case in real life. And so she's just this rude, arrogant type person, right? And then Charles ends up having her arrested because he thinks she's committing high treason and this and that. This never happened in real life. She was never arrested. And in real life, and she was actually best friends with Mary. They grew up together. And so, like, Catherine and Henry had her marry Philip of Spain after his wife ended up dying and stuff. I think it was Mary Tudor. Bloody Mary was his wife. And so, of course, she died in season one and Elizabeth took over. And it was said that once Philip met Liza, technically Elizabeth in real life, he stopped fooling around because he actually fell in love with her. The gross thing is she was a teenager when he married her and he was a grown man and stuff. But he did love her to death. And her mom actually had a good relationship and she actually had some kids and everything. I think a couple of miscarriages here and there. Now, the sad thing that happened was that when Mary was forced to go back to Scotland because Catherine kicked her out in real life, she wrote to Elizabeth, Liza, and said, you know, when she has her son James, she wants James to marry that of Liza's daughter so that it can reunite, have a stronger fraction and stuff like that. Problem is, Liza ended up dying in childbirth. And so she could never help Mary out. And so Catherine tried to give Philip another one of her daughters, but he declined. And that was that. And then later on, they went to war at some point and stuff like that. Don Carlo of Spain, who is Liza's stepson and King Philip's son. So this is interesting. First, he tries to court that of Elizabeth in England. She doesn't want him. Then he tries to marry Mary of Scots. And this was actually something that was supposed to happen. Those two were supposed to get married. However, they wrote this character for some reason to be like a sex maniac, right? And he has like a sex horse, a wooden horse, what do you call it? It's like this contraption you get on, you get tied up to it, and you get like spanked and whipped and everything like that. So he likes doing that in the show. I can't find no confirmation in real life he did stuff like that. But anyway, he wants to marry Mary, but he wants her to like spank him and everything, but she can't do that. So she has Catherine do it, what makes for one of the funniest scenes on the show when he's tied up, blindfolded, and Catherine's just like whipping the crap out of him. But then when Mary starts talking weird, he realizes somebody else is in the room. He is ashamed and he tries to get out the contraption only to fall and get a piece of wood stuck in the back of his head. They try to cover it up, but then he ends up walking off and everything and becomes completely inept in the brain. So they take care of him, but he doesn't remember what happened. He's actually playing Mary and everything. He wants her, I forget what this is called, but when you marry a queen, And if she dies, you stay king and everything. He wants that type of title. Mary does not want to give it to him, but he threatens to blackmail this and that. But of course, they turn the ties on him, be like, look, we'll expose you for like the sex fiend that you are, because his guards already know, but they keep it from the king hidden. Anyway, he goes back into Spain, disgraced, and then when we see him in season 4, he's completely cuckoo in the head because of his brain injury and running around naked. In actuality, in real life, he did suffer a brain injury where he had like a piece of wood stuck in the back of his head, and he actually died from it. And he died before he could marry Mary. And so, yeah. Stefan Narcisse is one of those characters you love to hate. Like, you want to like him, but you want to hate him at the same time. Or you want to hate him, but then you want to secretly like him and stuff. He is played by Craig Parker. I said before, Craig Parker is an amazing actor. I knew that once I saw him in Legend of the Seeker. But I've also seen him in other projects. He had a cameo in one of the Underworld movies, which he should have had a bigger role in my opinion. But he was also in like Young Hercules, Xena, and stuff like that, right? And even in one of the Power Rangers series. But it was where Legend of the Seeker he really shined. And so they still having him trying to take control, power, this and that, and pursue that of Lola. And like I said before, it works with him and Lola. However, when he's married to Lola, he's still having an affair with Catherine because Catherine still wants him. He is still cruel and evil and everything like that, but they try to make him into a bit of a better person who's trying to actually help the French court. The man just loves power. So when Catherine is about to be regent, something happens from one of the holy people, one of the priests or whatever, that says she killed Francis. So Narcisse decides, hey, I'm gonna jump on this opportunity and become regent. And he does, which of course never happens in real life because he's a made up character. And he's ruling that of France with an iron fist. So to prove that, you know, Catherine goes around poisoning people, he goes through Claude's diary and found out when she poisoned her in season 2. And so Catherine gets locked up and all this other stuff until she's able to take the regency back and from him. But, you know, he's still married to Lola, but Lola's off in England and stuff. He's still trying to do everything in his vast power to become, like, you know, powerful and everything, but it just keeps slipping from his grasp. Well, anyway, when he finds out Lola's about to be killed and everything, he heads on over to England to try to get her out when she gets taken as like a prisoner and stuff. And so he really does care for Lola, but of course he'll still cheat on her and everything. When he tries to sneak her out, she's like, no, and everything. I have to kill Elizabeth and blah, 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 blah. And just get my son out the country and stuff like that. And it's just like, dude, they wrote her so bad this season. But anyway, he's trying his best to get her out, and he's even stabbing people left and right. But then he ends up getting arrested as Lola is beheaded. Later, he is released with the help of Catherine in season 4 or something like that. But he hates Mary to death because he went with Mary to Scotland at the end of season 3, and he just does not like Mary because Mary tried to interfere with him and Lola and stuff. And so he does end up always saving that of Mary, like, you know, he saved her from those group of her people trying to like kill any like stranger that comes overseas and stuff like that. In season 4, he is still mourning that of Lola's death and does not start things up with Catherine no more. However, Catherine forces him to mess around with Kira, another teenage girl. Why they keep doing this? Lola is underage, Kira is underage, and Narcisse is like a 40-something-year-old man. Anyway, he arranges for his son Luke to marry Claude and all this and stuff. You remember, he clickety-clapped with Claude in season 2. So he's been with Claude, he's been with Catherine, the mother-daughter, he's been with Lola and stuff. He's now been with the king's mistress and everything. Like, seriously, the dude gets around. And so, like, he's trying his best to help Catherine deal with that of Charles, who, is going like nutty or whatever and stuff like that. So it's like they're trying to redeem him, but also keep him into his like sinister type ways. Towards the end, and this is just so weird, there's like this one heretic type woman who ends up drugging that of Catherine and Narcisse, forces them into a threesome, and keeps talking about the devil, devil, devil as she's blanking Narcisse, and Catherine's all like, oh no, she's trying to get pregnant with the devil's baby. What the heck are they writing now? And so that's the end of his storyline. At the end of season 4, all the stuff that happens with France in season 4 should have just been left off the table and added into season 3. Queen Catherine Medici herself, played by Megan, follows. It's not Megan, even though it's spelt like Megan, it's Megan. So this woman is a scene stealer. Like, seriously, she steals every scene she in. She is the true star of this show, man. She has so far been the best Catherine I've ever seen in any show. Yeah, I do like the other actress from the Serpent Queen, but Megan, boy, they wrote her to be a true villainess and everything. And so, but they try to redeem her a little bit and see towards the middle part of season 3 and season 4, but they still keep her shady self because she can't turn fully good. So it's what they do in every other season. They try to redeem her, but keep her wicked and evil and stuff. And so, like at the end of season 2, she went on over to England to be with Queen Elizabeth to plot against Mary. This never happened. She has never met Queen Elizabeth. They live too far apart and they're rivals and everything. So anyways, her and Elizabeth are going to try to ruin Mary, blah, 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 blah. This does not even last long in the season. She is brought back to France because Francis and Mary like sent some people over to kidnap her and stuff. And this happens very quickly. Of course, she's pissed and she's mad and this and that, and she's locked up in the dungeon. She gets framed for like messing with Lola, trying to send like dead rats into her water and stuff like that. But it was really Narcisse and everything. And so like when Frances dies, this is when she starts to be nice to Mary, finally. And she's nice to Mary throughout the entire series, which is something that never happened in real life, because she hates Mary. But she is heartbroken. But of course, Charles is now king, and she wants to be regent. Well, she's close to getting all the votes that she needs, scheming and scamming, doing what she always does, until this one Catholic priest or whatever tries to frame her for Francis's murder, saying that she poisoned him. She never did. Now, some members in the church did oppose her and tried to stop her reign in real life. But like I said before, Narcisse took control of this opportunity and he became regent, only for her to get it back. She does that like love thing with like Kastorf and everything. But then she's dealing with the fallout from the Red Knight situation that her and Henry screwed up. And so they want revenge on her and all this other crap. And so it's really making her reign really hard. But then when, what's his name, Charles starts to go bonkers in the head, he takes his reign back from her. And so she's just Queen Mother now. And so like I said before, she starts up her relationship with Narcisse, and that kind of ends. But she does love her kids to death. Because it took her so long. It took her 10 years just to finally have a kid, and all of those that didn't end in miscarriage. But then in real life, she actually had 10 children and everything. As a result, of Charles acting the way she does, she sends off for Prince Harry. But then Charles is better, but Harry still wants that throne and everything. And so, for the most part, Megan follows. Like, she got to direct a couple of episodes. Her daughter got to appear in the show, and she's one of the best written villains I've ever seen. She's like Kingpin and Lex Luthor combined. She's fierce. She's comedic at times. She's very independent, but she also knows her place whenever there's a king around because, of course, women don't have that much power back in those days and stuff. Now, in the show, she attends that of Mary's marriage to that of Dudley and everything. No, Darnley, this never happened. See, in actuality, when Francis died in real life, Catherine kicked Mary completely out of France. She hates Mary to death. She doesn't like another woman ruling over her and stuff. She didn't like the fact that her husband thought Mary was so beautiful as a little girl that threatened her, and she didn't like Francis being taken from her and stuff. So she just hated Mary with a passion, and they never reconciled like they did in the show. Prince Harry. So, Prince Harry in the show, just like with Charles, got aged up very quickly for some bizarre reason. Him and Charles cannot get along to save their lives. They just don't. In actuality, it was because of religion and stuff. With the whole Catholic, Protestant, and this and that war and all this other stuff. But like in the show, they just don't because Harry just wants to be king and just tries to embarrass his brother every chance he gets. And so, like, he even tries to steal Kira away from him and stuff, which he does end up messing around with and stuff. And so, he even physically harms that of Charles and this and that and completely disrespects him. However, it is later revealed that he is a cross-dresser and everything. Kira found this out because like he was like pretending to try on some earrings of hers and she noticed like these marks on his back that comes from wearing a corset. And so like she completely accepts this with him and like, tells him he can wear whatever clothes of hers she wants and they can play dress up and this and that. Well, once again, him and Charles always comes to blows and this and that. In real life, he really was part of the LGBT community and stuff. He was said to have like male lovers, and also he was a cross dresser all throughout court. He would wear dresses and this and that out in public. He did later on become king when Charles died and everything, but he was assassinated at one point in time. So when it comes to France, the last time they had a king was in the 1700s. It was Henry's and Catherine's um, last son, Louis or Louis. I can't remember which one it was, but his name. But yeah, that's the last time they had like a king. Then of course the French Revolution, they stopped having a monarchy, and then like Spain lost like so much of its power, and then England just like took over. Now when it comes to that of Spain, they used to be one of the most powerful countries like there was around that time. However, around the 1700s, they lost power and mainly to that of Britain. And Britain, as we all know, it started to dominate and colonize a bunch of other countries. China, Canada, America, like Scotland, and like, Ireland, stuff like that. And so in Africa, like in South Africa and stuff like that. It's funny how things change. I forget exactly what happened. I think they lost a war and it pretty much just crippled them and stuff. Robert and Amy Dudley. So Robert Dudley was one of like Queen Elizabeth I's best friends. And it was reported that those two were lovers and everything. because she died the Virgin Queen, but she was romantically linked to him. In the show, they do have a relationship and an affair. And so, but they show his nice side, but they don't show too much of his ruthless side. He was a man who wanted to gain power. Now, what's so crazy about him and Elizabeth is that King Henry VIII had his either grandfather or great grandfather assassinated. So that is crazy how years later him and like Elizabeth started a thing. Whether or not they were truly like clickety clacking, nobody will ever truly know, but they were romantically linked. But the thing is, if they were so much in love, why didn't they ever get married? Well, because he was already married to Amy. And that whole affair did not, suit her very well. He treated her wrong. In actuality, he lived next door to that, or the next room over to that of the queen, while Amy lived far away and everything. And he didn't even visit her for like a whole year. She was sick by being poisoned or something like that, but like she pretended to continue being sick. I think it was William that poisoned her, and when Elizabeth in the show found out, she exiled him or something like that. Anyway, so like he's very close with that of the queen, and they have this huge love triangle type thing, because this is what this show loves to do. And plus, that's what happened in actuality in real life. And so things turn for the worse when Amy finds out about their affair. So she's all like, okay, people overheard him threaten me and everything, and he's choked me before, so I'm gonna destroy my room and jump off the balcony and everything and kill myself. And that's what she does. This is causing people to think Robert murdered her, and if it turned out to be true, and turned out to be true about him and Elizabeth, then the people will turn against Elizabeth because they don't want her as queen because she is a woman and illegitimate and everything. So he goes into hiding and all this other stuff. He later has like a pistol duel with somebody, but eventually he does end up leaving Elizabeth in like the show at some point in time. And, of course, those two never married because, they couldn't marry in real life, but they couldn't because it would have looked way too suspicious with Amy's murder. He does end up eventually marrying somebody else, though. Gideon Blackburn. So he is an advisor to that of Queen Elizabeth, and he's completely made up for the show. He later becomes the second ambassador to France. Once they just wrote off the Nicholas character. Now, Nicholas is shown on the show, and he is a real person in real life, but he stayed like, the ambassador to France, and then later Scotland, and informed like, Elizabeth all the crazy crap that was going on in Scotland. So anyway, Gideon is sent over to France to like seduce Mary and everything. That's what Elizabeth wanted, so he can come back, give information and stuff like that. Once like, and he starts to act as an adversary to that of like Mary, but then when she finds out why he's doing all this, see, Elizabeth have his daughter captive and everything. So in order for him to see her, Mary's like, all right, you can seduce me, this and that. Well, being Mary, she ends up falling in love with him for some bizarre reason. I hate that they wrote that for her in season 3. It just makes her look nasty, kind of. I mean, Frances literally just died and everything, you know what I'm saying? And she tried to get with Don Collin, and it's just, they kept trying to put her with so many dudes. And then, of course, when it comes to season 4, she's with a bunch of dudes again, but it's because of what happened in history. So anyway, they wrote this crazy storyline for her, but she ends up falling for him and this and that. She meets his daughter and everything. And so, like, when all the crazy stuff starts happening with Mary in Scotland, she has to leave him. So then he heads on back on over to that of England. By season 4, however, he is still friends with Mary and will help her out, but now he is falling in love with Elizabeth. which completely never happened. And Elizabeth literally falls madly in love with him. They want to marry and this and that. She meets his daughter, who she had captive and everything, but his daughter is dying. So Elizabeth gets this physician to help, but then he tricks them and everything by giving her a placebo because the girl is gonna die no matter what. And she does end up dying. Elizabeth and him have this huge romance that she has to keep hidden and all this other stuff. And because they needed Elizabeth to do something for season 4 because they really had nothing for her. They wrote her to be this big, prominent character in season 3. But by season 4, they had absolutely nothing for her. So Gideon actually comes to his demise because of Narcisse. Narcisse wants everybody responsible for Lola's death. Gideon had nothing to do with it, but he knows if he kills that of Gideon, it will hurt that of Elizabeth, because it will be a whole lot harder to get to Elizabeth because she is queen. So Narcisse bribes that of a servant of like Elizabeth who knows about the whole Gideon and like, Elizabeth romance and stuff. He's a cool character, but it's just like, why introduce him in the show if none of this stuff ever happened? Because it took away from other stuff that could have happened in the show. So that's basically everything that happens from like the 3rd and 4th season that deals with like a lot of the French stuff. And so now I'm gonna get over on over to that of all the Scottish stuff in season 4. Introduce those new characters that got introduced, and I will get to the 2 queens at the very end. Like I said before, all the French stuff that happened in season 4 was pointless, but it should have happened in season 3. But John Knox is a prick. He hates women and he hates Mary just because Mary's a woman and he doesn't want her to rule that of Scotland. Most of Scotland has now turned Protestant because of Elizabeth, and he just really hates Mary and he tries to do everything in his power to take her reign and put other people, a man, as king. He has a wife in this show, but his wife is not the wife. I think her name is Emily, but there is no Emily in real life. He does have 2 wives in real life, but like, it's like, not the one they gave for the show. So anyway, he's the one who wrote that fake letter to Lola that tried to assassinate that of Elizabeth. He's trying to turn England against that of Mary. And just like in real life, he's very outspoken against Mary, even in public and stuff like that. He tries to arrange to have like, Mary stripped of her power by saying she wasn't in an affair with that of David Rizzo and stuff like that. He tries to help Henry take over power and all this other crap. He's just a horrible, horrible person who later gets castrated by Narcisse when he finds out he has something to do with Lola's death. This angers Mary and tells Narcisse to stay out of Scotland and this and that. David Rizzo. So yes, there was a real David Rizzo, just like a John Knox. David Rizzo helped plan the marriage between Henry Darnley and that of Mary Stuart. And so him and Henry were actually very close friends in real life. So close that people thought they had a gay relationship and stuff. They would hold hands, lay together in bed and this and that. It's never been proven to be true or false. It's still one of those things people just don't know, you know what I'm saying? However, Henry did turn on David. In actuality, when John Knox was trying to, screw Mary over and everything, they started this rumor that David and Mary was having an affair. This was something Henry despised and turned him to turn on that of David. And so along with some other men, I forget this one guy's name starts with an R. David tried to frame this one guy because people was turning on Mary, and he was going to expose this one dude for being gay along with him. And so, just like in history, a group of men stormed into Mary's room with David being there, along with Henry. And so it is said that, like, this dude, I think he was only wearing like a robe or no pants. He was something. It made it seem like they was having an affair. Nobody knows if this was actually true or not. In the show, Mary's getting accused of adultery and everything. They storm in the room, and Rizzo gets scared and hides behind Mary in real life. In the show, does not hide behind her. Now, this was a man who had a lavish lifestyle, lots of good clothes and jewelry and furniture and stuff like that. I believe he was Italian or something. And so, like, just like in real life, they stabbed him over and over. Basically, Henry gave the order, but Henry, I don't think, stabbed him in real life, but they made Henry stab him on the show. And I think he was stabbed a total of 47 times in real life, and then they threw him down the steps and the balcony and stuff. Here, they just stabbed him over and over and let him bleed out and everything. Boy, this was tragic and everything. James Stewart, I think he's like Lord Moray or something like that. He is the real life half brother of Mary, and he is illegitimate. And in real life, he was so jealous of Mary. He's been recast for season 4. He showed up in season 1 in one episode only. For this show, or this season, he is shown to want to play both sides. He's aligned with Mary, but also John Knox. Mary finds this out, straightens him up, and he becomes a better person. I think he's like one of her closest advisors. He was regent when her mom died and everything. And so, like, he starts to try to be in a relationship with that of Greer, which is just odd and weird. But he has Mary's side on the show. When they went to go capture, like, those men that killed Rizzo and stuff, I think a fire broke out and something like that, and a bunch of men ended up dying, or they got slaughtered, one or two, by that one man. He had to take the fall for it, so he got banished from court, only to come back later on and stuff like that. He does not like Mary's new husband, Henry. And he is shown to help Mary out in any way possible. In real life, this did not happen. In the show, they wanted him to be a nice character, but in real life, he was so jealous that he plotted against Mary countless times, trying to steal her reign multiple times. He even, I think had Mary like arrested, or did something to have her arrested. He did a lot of bad stuff to Mary and everything. And I mean a lot of bad stuff. And what is it? Like, but he plotted against her like a lot in real life. I think he was assassinated maybe by somebody, because he helped strip Mary of her power, and give it to like her son and this and that. And of course, her son was just an infant, so he became regent again and stuff. But he was horrible in real life. Lord Bothwell. So this dude is somebody from real life as well. He was close with Mary, and he was like an advisor and stuff like that. He was sent by Bash on the show. He does not like Henry, and he will protect Mary at any point in time. In the show, him and Mary have a romance, and she cheats on her husband with him by kissing him and stuff. And so, like, he ended up killing Henry, Mary's husband, on the show, and I think starting a fire and this and that. In real life, he is part of the reason why Mary ended up fleeing to England, being incarcerated, and beheaded. So after Mary's husband ended up dying, the second husband, because in real life he did kill Henry and stuff, him and Mary ended up married very quickly after that. Now, nobody knows if it was forced or not. There are some that say that they was really in love and they got married, and there was others that said he forced her to marry her and assaulted her. I don't know which is which. I think he might have been assassinated as well. I'm not really sure. Henry Darnley. So Henry is the cousin of Mary. He's English and he's her first cousin. And so, yeah, he ended up marrying his cousin. Mary needed an ally. Basically, her country turned Protestant. They did not want a woman to be the queen. They needed a man, and so she married him. And I think he was Catholic because she was trying to return her country Catholic in actuality and on the show. He is a scab of a man. He was in a relationship with somebody else. He is a schemer. He's conniving and everything. And that's how he was in real life. He's a character that nobody likes. And he would do whatever it takes just to stay king and this and that. He did end up having an incest baby with Mary, later on to be King James. And so, like, in the show, he is just like, when James ended up helping some of the people from like a fire and everything, he got jealous and decided he's going to start a fire at a hut and rescue a little boy out just to get cheered and this and that. He is a true, like, just like scammer. And him and Mary could not really get along after they got married and she got pregnant on the show. They couldn't get along in real life, and like it's like once he got married to her, that's just when he started to change, both in real life and in the show. And she realized she married the wrong person and this and that, but she had to do it for her kingdom. And so nobody likes him. James doesn't like him. Brothwell doesn't like him. Nobody likes this dude. And so, like, of course, David Rizzo, he ended up having him like murdered and this and that. And so it's a real complicated story with him. In the show, they gave him syphilis because that's what they thought happened to him in real life. But in actuality, he had smallpox. And in the show, they caused him to go mad. Sometimes he's Mary's ally, sometimes he is her enemy. He does want like that title, which gives him rule over Scotland if something happens to Mary. And so, like, once the baby is like born and stuff like that, he goes mad, kidnaps the boy, and then later on, like, he's found. They found the baby. Rothwell ends up like killing him, just like he does in real life and everything. And so that is him. I hate this character so much. Back when I first watched this show, I had no idea if he was a real character or not, or a real person in real life or not. And so I never understood why in the world they put Mary with this dude. But that's what happened in historical times and everything. He's just one of those characters you just hate. Not love to hate, just hate and everything. Queen Elizabeth the First, the Virgin Queen herself, played by Rachel Scatton. And I remember Rachel when she was 16, she was on Birds of Prey at the WB. And so she had to dye her hair red and talk with a British accent. She did a phenomenal job playing this complex character. So her character has been mentioned ever since season 1. Bloody Mary, Mary Tudor, was the queen of season 1 of England, but we never got to see her, only heard of her. Then when Mary died, Elizabeth became the queen. This infuriated England, France, Scotland, and everybody because Elizabeth was illegitimate. Why? Because after Catherine of Aragon was banished and divorced by King Henry VIII, he married his mistress Anne Boleyn. And so Anne, this one dude, I think his name was Cromwell, I believe, hated Anne like just to death and wanted to get rid of her and everything. So he concocted a lie and said that Anne had an affair with 5 different men, one being her brother, and she wanted to assassinate King Henry VIII. This was around the time King Henry VIII was super paranoid, became a like tyrant and everything. And so he believed this and had that of Anne beheaded with the sword instead of an axe, because an axe is what they do in England and the sword is what they do in France. Yes, and Boleyn was French and everything. So this made um, Elizabeth illegitimate because Henry married soon after Anne died. He married Jane Seymour and stuff, and then they had a son, a duke. The son is never shown on the show or ever mentioned. But yes, Bloody Mary did have Elizabeth locked in the tower and everything because she didn't want, I guess, like Mary, not Mary, but Elizabeth to like, I guess, try to like take power from her or something like that. I don't know. I don't really know the circumstances, but anyway, this Queen Elizabeth is very ruthless and conniving and stuff. Also, just like her father, they broke away from Catholicism. Elizabeth is Protestant. And the thing about Elizabeth in this show is that even though she is queen, nobody wants her to be queen because she is a woman and she's illegitimate and she was Protestant. And so this is one of the reasons why she never married. Because even if you're queen, the moment you marry a man, boom, he takes over. And if he's a really powerful man, he really takes over. So like with Mary Tudor being gone, Philip is no longer king of England and stuff. And so, but of course, he still at some point is probably going to want it. And so Elizabeth is doing all she can to keep her kingdom to herself. However, there's a problem. Her cousin, Mary Stuart, Queen of Scots, is the legitimate queen of England because she's related to somebody, I forget who. And so this is causing a problem. And it caused a problem in real life because there are some in England who thought Mary should have been queen, and then there are others who wanted Elizabeth to be queen. One is Catholic, one is Protestant. And so, like, this caused Mary and Elizabeth to be the greatest rivalry in all of history that never even met. And they're cousins on top of that. And so, like I said before, she was in love with Robert Dudley and stuff, but she never married nobody and she never had kids. She was the last Tudor to ever reign that of England, which is crazy because King Henry VIII, he was obsessed with having a male heir to be king because he didn't want his line to end. And his daughter, of all people, is the one who ended it. And because she never wanted nobody to have power over her and stuff. Now, in the Serpent Queen, they have her meet that of Mary and they have her meet that of Catherine. This never happened in real life. Just like in the show, this show, she met Catherine, which never happened. But she's never ever met Mary. And so tons of suitors would come for her, only for her to engage with them, but never marry them and stuff like that. And like I said before, she sent like, Gideon over to seduce that of Mary. And then later on, her and Gideon had a relationship. She is cruel, but she is sympathetic at the same time. You see, she has no female friends. This is why she takes a liking to Lola, even though she wanted to use Lola to get information on Mary, but later on ended up becoming friends with Lola, and Lola literally had her back. So when Lola tried to assassinate her, this broke her heart, and she became more untrusting and stuff. In season three, she had such a huge role, I kid you not. She had more than that of Mary. She had more than anybody else of season three. This is why I thought they would spin the show off in her direction, but they never ever did. And so, like, in season four, this is when they realized, okay, look, this show is about Mary, not Elizabeth. So they dialed it back on Elizabeth, gave her a love romance with Gideon, and broke her heart, this and that. She assumed that it was Spain that did all of this, so then she goes to war with Spain at the very end. And of course, she has Mary in prison and beheaded. Now, when it came to the real Elizabeth of England and everything, the first one, like pretty much everything I said about her and Robert Dudley is true. Same thing with the whole Mary and stuff like that. But some other little things is that she was very flirtatious. She knew she could, like, tantalize men and make them do whatever she want without having to actually do anything for them, especially that of her knights, because they would literally do anything for her. And she loved that idea of, like, making men do whatever she wants and stuff. And the whole not having like a child, that's because, she didn't want to give up her power. Plus, she's witnessed people dying in childbirth before, like the mothers, like her stepmother and stuff. And also the idea of getting married is just like I said before, not wanting a man to take over her kingdom or trying to lie on her and get her beheaded or something, because she had witnessed all that stuff before, and it's not something she really wanted. And so it also turns out she loved sugar a lot, would have tons of it imported to like England, and she would put sugar in everything. And it caused her teeth to go extremely bad, to where they was falling out, they was rotten, they was turning black. And they said she had the worst smell of breath, similar to the ulcers on her dad's like legs, to where you could smell her like a mile away and everything. Plus, as she started to get older, her look started to fade because she was using like lead and other stuff to make her face look youthful, but all it did was deteriorate her face. She wore like gallons of makeup on, like, her face to like cover up the wrinkles, the lead, scars or whatever, the blotches from smallpox. And she had to wear wigs, and she was turning bald. And so tons of men used to really love her and want to be with her, but of course she never wanted them. But then as she started getting older, less and less men started throwing themselves at her. But then there was this one man who barged in as she was getting fixed up. And because nobody had seen what she looked like for years, as she started to get older and stuff, because she didn't want nobody to look at her. And similar to her dad, she loved like really expensive clothes and jewelry and had portraits to make her look better than what she really did. And so when that man barged in on her room, he saw how hideous she looked and told everybody. And everybody started like laughing at her and stuff. So she had him beheaded. And so, like, of course, when she got really old, sick, died, the power went to James of like Scotland. And, it's just, man, I swear, man, like the Tudors, man, like I just learned a whole bunch of stuff about Henry VIII as he started to get older. And it's like, my God, like, because like them low historical drama show, they don't depict that lifestyle and everything. You know what I'm saying? And now I see why they didn't give her no friends on the show, because really her only friends were like male friends, but like her female like servants were the only people she had to confide in. And one would even sleep in her room to make sure she didn't need anything. But like the whole Virgin Queen thing is still debatable. They say if she did like mess around with men, she did it in the extreme secrecy so nobody could find out. And she would do everything from like making like a slice of lemon, stick it up her because there was like no condoms or birth control pills, or she'll take like wax and mold it so the guy couldn't put his seed in her, or they would use a sponge and dip it in vinegar because they thought vinegar would like dissolve like the sperm and everything. Man, they went through some weird tactics back then. But yeah, I never knew her teeth was falling out and they was black. And they even said she would clean her teeth with honey. Boy, they didn't know nothing back in those days. Mary Queen of Scots, played by, I believe her name is Adeline Kane. I'm not sure how to say her first name. Like I said before, give her her props. She came from Power Rangers of all things and landed her own starring role. She's Australian, but has to talk with a British accent because that's how they do all these historical shows, whether it is Russia, France, Scotland, Italy. They always speak with like an English type accent for some reason, which is confusing because in season one, they had this one Scottish person speak with a Scottish accent. And then in season four, there's like at least one or two different, like, it's one actor I know for sure. He speaks with a Scottish accent. So it's like, why them, but then nobody else? That's so confusing and stuff. And she's, in my opinion, probably one of the most tragic queens of all time. So in season three, she's having to deal with all this crap with Catherine because Catherine just hates her guts. And when Catherine's back in, like, France, you know, Mary is a very, proud queen and, she's serving France and everything because she's lived in France pretty much her entire life since she was 9 years old. Some say she is more French than she is Scottish, and that's what pissed the Scottish people off. And so she loved Francis to death until he died. And it was so tragic when he died because she was only Queen of France for a whole year. And France was supposed to be that strong ally of Scotland because they had to send troops on over because Elizabeth was attacking Scotland and they had to send French troops on over there and stuff. And so, like, when he died, it was tragic. And one of the last scenes showed her on a boat by herself trying to do it the same way he showed her. It got stuck, and then she fixed it the way he showed her. So touching and stuff. But then in all of season three, she kind of doesn't really have a role because it featured Elizabeth so much. They basically tried to just put her with whatever guy they could because that's kind of what happened in real life. Mary was desperate. She needed a husband. She knew she needed one in order to rule because a lot of those people are so misogynistic. They don't want to be ruled by a woman. Gee, sound familiar? And so, like, it just didn't work with all the guys she was with. But then, there was problems over in Scotland. And so she realized she had to go on over there to help, protect her country. Before she left, she protected Catherine with her soldiers and everything. And then she later headed on over to Scotland. Now, like I said before, this did not happen because Catherine just kicked her on out the country and stuff. But when she went to Scotland, it was hard, She was on a boat, the boat got wrecked and everything. She ended up on the shore, but then started seeing her fellow Scots kill her people and stuff. They didn't want outsiders on the country. Her and Bash and no, her and Narcisse, they hid. He later left. She found Bash. They had to lie in order to protect themselves, being brother and sister, to talk to this one dude. But then he realized who she was and stuff. she killed him and realized, enough is enough. I am here to rule my country, because her country turned completely against her. Mary has always faced the odds and always found a way to prevail, just not always the way she wanted and stuff. And so she took back her kingdom with the help of her brother and this and that, but she faced opposition from that of John Knox. And it's interesting to see the contrast between the three different kingdoms. We've seen the inside interior of the French court, and it's like, these really beautiful, like, brick walls and this and that is very bright. Then you have the English castle, which is very elegant inside and stuff like that. But then you have the Scottish kingdom castle, and it's very dark inside. There are these dark wood walls and floors, and it's hard to see stuff inside because it's so dark. But I do like it and everything. It seems rich with the wood, even though it's not slapped with like marble, like, brick and everything like that, like the other kingdoms and stuff. And so Greer is her only lady in waiting left. The other two died, and what's the name? Canna is just gone off the show and stuff. And so she's trying to do her best to make the people like her. She's feeding them. She's telling them you can believe in whatever religion you want to, knowing that most of her people are now Protestant. You do see female soldiers in her ranks, which is odd because they've never featured prominently in the show. But yes, women in Scotland did fight in battle and stuff. And so while being in Scotland, she had an uphill battle because of like knots, that of Elizabeth and everything. This whole Darling, I can't say his name, Henry Darling and everything. And also, sometimes her brother, but not really her brother. But it was mostly the whole John Knox thing and the whole like king, the new King Henry, who she had to marry. And there was problems. She was pregnant with like his baby. There was a chance that she might not survive on the show. Then she does, and when she married him, he turned into like a tyrant. Her friend ended up murdered and everything. She had to like she had an affair. She had to like, like I said before, she had to hunt down her husband and everything. Then all of a sudden the show just kind of ended because she was arrested for adultery and stuff, because this was something she was accused of. And then they did a leap forward in time about 28 years or so, and it was just kind of like, whoa, what the heck is happening? Like, wait, what, this is the last season? Like, it was just like shocking. We thought, how is she gonna get out the tower and the castle, because she's been arrested. Now in real life she did escape on like her own and stuff, and there was a bunch of other stuff that happened with her that we never got to see in the show. But in the real life, she fled to England because she couldn't go back to France. For whatever reason, she didn't go to Spain. And like Liza ended up dying, so she couldn't get help from her. And she was forced to give up her power to that of her infant son. This was a coup staged by that of James and other people, because she married Bothwell and stuff so soon after Henry died. And so because of this, the people just wanted her head, and so she had to flee to England. What in the world made her think Elizabeth would protect her, and that is her greatest rival? But at one point, Elizabeth was gonna protect her, until Elizabeth got cold feet, thinking that Mary might try to steal her power and everything. So she had Mary in prison for 18 years in the Tower, and that is where she stayed for the rest of her life until she was beheaded. So when the show picks back up, it's 28 years later. She's been in like, the castle and everything, the tower, and we see her about to be beheaded. we see a now more traditional looking Queen Elizabeth I with her hair and stuff like that. And Rachel's playing her even meaner than before, talking to King James, the son of Henry and Mary. And she's telling him that, Mary has been tried for high treason. Apparently, Mary tried to take the crown from that of Elizabeth. Now, this is something that actually happened in real life where she actually did plot to take the crown. She also plotted in the show at one point in time. But it was more so of Knox doing that and tricking her and stuff like that. But at one point, she has tried to take the crown from Elizabeth at some point. And so, because of that, she was found guilty while still being in the tower and everything. And she was going to be beheaded. And so Elizabeth asks James straight up, hey, look, I can either kill your mom now and you will continue to be king of like Scotland and you would take over in England once I die, or I can let your mother live, but she will stay locked in the tower for the rest of her life. Which is it gonna be? And would you like to see her? Just like in the show and just like in the real life, he chose not to save his mom. And he's never met his mom except for when he was a baby. The reason people believe this is because if Mary was to live, he would be afraid she might escape and try to take back Scotland from him and eventually take over England. So heartless and everything, he just let his mom rot in prison and be beheaded. And so in the show, Mary asked the executioner and all these people, is my son gonna come and see me? And they're all like, no. And so she kisses her cross and everything, and she puts her head down, and boom, she is beheaded. And we then see her in the afterlife along with Francis and everything. It was so sad. He's laying in bed with her. It is brightly lit. And he's all like, I've been waiting for you for so many years to join me and everything. And then you see those two dressed in white running like alongside like the grass holding hands. And it's one of the most touching endings I've ever seen ever in like a show. And we see like a flashback of everything that's happened with Mary and happened with all the people in the show, and the show ends. Now, what do I think of like Queen Mary of Scots in real life? I think she lived a tragic life. Everybody has used this woman. Her mom used her to marry France just to be to have an alliance for that of Scotland. Her brother never liked her and was always jealous of her and tried his best to have her either arrested or a coup or something like that. She fell in love with Francis only to have his mother hate her guts and everything. Then when she finally became like, the Queen of France, it only lasted for a year. And then there was all this stuff between her and Elizabeth. So I think she lived a very tragic life. And every time there was a glimmer of hope that she could stay queen and rule that of Scotland and rule that of England, something always happened. Somebody always ended up dying. It's like she was the angel of death. Frances died when she sought out help from that of Elizabeth of Spain. She ended up dying when, like, she needed Henry to be like her husband and he acted like a fool. He ended up dying. The Carlo dude, he ended up dying and stuff. And just so many people ended up dying, like, who like well, either will help her and stuff. So she always came so close to gaining her goal, but it never happened. And then her son turned on her and everything. Her own cousin turned on her. And it's just like nobody ever really truly had her back. And it's so tragic to hear about, like, to watch this in so many shows and to read about it online. And it's just so tragic and stuff. However, It's hard to say if she was a great queen and everything, only because she never truly had the chance. Like, she was the Queen of Scotland at age 6, but she had to flee to France at age 9. People in her own country felt like she was more French than she was that of Scottish and everything. And because she was a woman, and the Scottish people really did not want to be ruled by that of a woman. Like Margaret Tudor and everything, I believe that's her name. She had problems. Like King Henry's the eighth sister had problems when she tried to rule Scotland. Well, her husband died and the people turned on her. She had to flee back and forth from England to Scotland and everything. So they really did not want a woman ruling over them. And, so it's hard to say if Mary was a true great queen because she never had the chance to really rule. When she went back to Scotland, she had problems with her people and stuff. And so it's just really hard to say. But I truly feel like she was a tragic queen. It was always one person against her, and nobody never truly had her back, and everybody just wanted to use her and stuff. The show, like I said before, it is phenomenal. It is one of the best shows on the CW. It's one of my favorite shows. It had an amazing intro for season 1 and 2, but then they got rid of it in season like 3 and 4. It is historically inaccurate. However, I hate when people say the entire show is inaccurate. No, it's not. They do take from real life instances, but they kind of like turn the narrative around. But in season 1 and 2, I see, and also season 3, I can see why people got irritated with the inaccuracy. But they did try to stay somewhat faithful to history in season 4, which started to bore people and confuse people because people didn't know what was real and what was not. Like even the magical element disappeared completely in season 4 and everything after it was so prominent in season 3. I wish they would have kept the magical element out. I wish they would have stayed more faithful to history because when you watch these shows, you want to be like, hey, this actually happened. I can tell people. And people are like, no, it didn't. You just making stuff up because the show was historically inaccurate. It was a romance show. It was a drama. It was a soap opera. And it played on that and everything. And it worked in their favor with the general audience that did not know anything about the Van Walls or the Stuarts and stuff, or the Tudors. So it worked in their favor to be historically inaccurate and stuff. I wish season 4 could have been different. Now that I know that a lot of it is from history, I have a bit more appreciation for it, but I still find it to be a very bland, very type season. You know what I'm saying? But all in all, this was a really great show and everything. And it really like perpetuated me to watch more historical, not historical, historical type shows and stuff. Now you can find this on Amazon Prime. It's no longer on the CW app, and you can actually get it on DVD. You can get an individual DVD for like probably around 14, $18, or you can just get the whole complete series for 34. Happy Women's History Month, everybody. All right, well, I'll talk to you later. Bye.